So I was watching the mid-set TFT tournament, which is the biggest tournament of the set, and there was some good TFT, but you can't help but notice the chat in that channel was like a clear night sky. Stars everywhere. People banned left and right, and then you gotta wonder why. When I watch a TFT tournament, I just want to watch and see some good TFT. However, this weekend and pretty much the entirety of watching any main broadcast TFT stream, you're going to encounter excessively modded channels. And this was likely due to having the pronouns present on all the player cards throughout the entirety of the tournament, even during the games. This weekend, the chat was plagued with people talking about pronouns, getting banned about talking about pronouns, even if it was something as innocent as saying, how come the pronouns are being shown so frequently, or why does it say he, him? Things of that nature. These aren't direct quotes, but anyone who has watched the stream this weekend, or any official TFT stream that's run by Giant Slayer or Wisdom, knows exactly what I'm talking about because they run the chat like 1984. Again, when I'm watching a TFT tournament, I'm there for TFT. I don't care what type of person is doing it, I just want to see them do it.
Gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit?
I did not want to make this video, but based on the chat experience and the baiting of it, I feel like it should be addressed. And yes, I do think the production company is baiting. Also, based on how my viewing experience is ruined because of this chat interaction, because it became political instead of about the game, it makes me want to at least try to improve it. It just needs to be stated out there. Do people in TFT even care that much about pronouns? Most people want to avoid the topic because it's seen as political. You notice this immediately upon watching a co-stream that watches the main broadcast. People in those chats would also mention the excessive display of pronouns, but none of those moderators engage with those messages, and the streamers certainly don't either because they are afraid to lean one way or the other because they don't want to lose viewers or get canceled. Fun fact, any streamer who ignores political statements most likely lean towards the non-politically correct view, which is why they don't talk about it. Luckily, I'm in a place where if I lost the entirety of my TFT channel, I would still be fine financially and socially. Of course, I'd still love to keep doing this, but if I get banned from the game because I expressed a logical opinion that would improve the viewing experience of watching a competitive game, then so be it. I'm actually all for inclusion. Crying out loud, I'm a minority myself in this country, and I have felt discrimination and hardships due to my demographic in my life, and I don't wish the same upon others. However, showing pronouns this frequently like they did in this tournament clearly did more harm than good. And again, we're here to watch TFT, not know a player's life story. Instead of showing pronouns where they did, why not show something about the player relevant to TFT? In League of Legends, for example, you know, the game TFT is based on, when people have two lines for their names, they show something like name and position, such as Bjergsen, mid lane. I actually checked the most recent LCS broadcast, which has an infinitely larger and more developed scene than TFT, and there was actually zero display of pronouns from what I saw, and definitely not during the actual games. Not in champ select, not during the laning phase, not even in the player bios before the game that have 4 different questions in them. Back to TFT though. I see that in the player cards, they do provide stats on the side such as average placements or current point totals, and I actually love that. However, why not just leave their name at 1 line instead of 2 so that the statistical information is highlighted even more? However, if they must have 2 lines of information about a player, why not add even more TFT information, such as their seeding? After all, there are no positions in TFT like League of Legends, so we can't just simply copy them. Why not add their team or sponsor? Why not add their Twitter handles? Fuck it, why not have their little legend names there? Did you actually know that the top 3 players were all 1-star Ginger Snap Dangos? They actually use the same exact little legends. But instead of knowing that, we know that 8 he/hims went 1st through 8th in the final 8. The reason why I mentioned this is that no one actually noticed the Dango pattern until I did when I typed it in chat, and then after that, everyone spammed Dangos for the rest of the stream. This was a pattern I noticed in the first game, but people typed it in chat throughout the rest of the game after I did that, and then they eventually went top 3 overall in the entire tournament. Pronouns are a personal thing. For me, when I introduce myself, I don't use my pronouns. At the same time, if someone feels it's important for them and they say something like, "Hi, my name is first name, last name, and my pronouns are pronoun 1 and pronoun 2, I'm not going to scream at them to not do it, even though I don't do it myself. However, I noticed that in the chat of the tournament, when a lot of chatters were wondering why the pronouns were so frequently displayed, a moderator stated that the players voluntarily gave their pronouns, which I am suspicious about. In past tournament signups run by Giant Slayer, they made pronouns a mandatory field, meaning that it wasn't voluntarily provided. Recently, they changed it so that the field is optional. Whether it was or wasn't for mid-set, I don't actually know, but out of the 32 players who competed, how many do you think actually listed their pronouns in their bios on their Twitch About Me section or Twitter? Let me know down in the comments what your guesses are, but my guess was 3 out of 32, which is around 10%. What if I told you that actually zero, you heard that right, of the 32 mentioned their pronouns in their bios that they have full control over? Seriously, what are the chances of that? Now do you see why I'm skeptical when they say that the players provided their pronouns to the production team voluntarily? Do you really think it's that important to them if they didn't even bother to list them on their Twitter or Twitch? All 32 of them? You know what these players mentioned in their Twitter and Twitch bios instead? Stuff like their peak TFT ranks, what their professions are, where they are from, their names, what other games they played, and things of that nature. But absolutely zero mention of pronouns. I didn't even see people list out their gender or their sex. You guys can check it out yourself. Here's a player list with their Twitch links easily accessible. And when the number is 0 out of 32 players, that's why I'm suspicious when the moderator said the players voluntarily gave it, and that's why it's there on the stream to display for everyone. The players were most likely guided into providing them. I'm not saying that they held a gun to their head, but here's an example of the difference between guiding someone into an answer versus them voluntarily providing it. If you ask someone to introduce themselves and they say, "Hey, I'm Jim, she, her," then they are voluntarily providing that information. However, if you directly ask someone what their name and pronouns are, then you are leading them into providing that information. Two vastly different things. The hilarious part about this whole chat interaction is that I only watched the third and final day of the tournament, which means that the channel already banned all the pronoun criticizers in the first 2 days, yet this discussion was still the majority of the chat. That's how excessive the displays of pronouns were. Sometimes the problem isn't with the people, but it's the people with the power. Just like how you shouldn't theoretically force comps in TFT, don't force your societal priorities onto others. Sure, you can encourage it, but don't force it. Let's compare this to my alcohol usage. I personally don't drink, so I am definitely the odd man out. Sorry, I mean the odd person out. When I'm out with people, regardless of whether they are my college friends, high school friends, old work friends, or TFT friends, people will try to pressure me into drinking. I refuse because I don't drink, and then they stop because they actually respect my choices. Conversely, once in a blue moon, I will tell people why I don't drink and try to convince them not to as well. However, if they wish to continue drinking, I won't stop them because I respect their life choices. Let's compare this to veganism, where you don't have to ask someone if they are a vegan or not because they will tell you, and then after that, they'll keep telling you whenever you bring up any sort of topic, even if it's unrelated to eating or veganism. Of course, this isn't all vegans, but the vegans that do this don't respect other people's life choices. I believe that Riot and Wisdom can get better, and I have this hope that they will improve even though they essentially have a monopoly on the production of competitive TFT tournaments. Why are monopolies bad? They're generally bad because that means that they have no competitors. When a company has no competitors, consumers have no choice but that one company. That means no matter how good or bad their product is, consumers are forced to take it or leave it with no other alternative. Turns out, if there is competition, a production company might actually prioritize the viewing experience instead of their political views, and it makes a main broadcast unwatchable. Wisdom should have learned this already because literally every single time I tune into the main broadcast, the viewing experience is ruined because they bait chat in a similar manner in what they did just now. And this causes a lot of unrelated chatting and excessive modding. Unfortunately, there can only be one main broadcast for the qualification circuit, so it makes it very difficult to be the second biggest TFT production company. By the way, I've been critical of Wisdom for a couple of years now, and it wasn't because of their political views. It was because the way they ran tournaments were actually pretty horrible. And in that time between set 2 and set 8, no other competitor has been able to step up because, again, it's a winner-take-all system. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that if they had competition, they would improve, and they would actually prioritize the viewing experience. Competition makes products improve. I like to improve too. For example, I'm building a TFT website and the team builder's first iteration sucked. I knew it sucked because it was less usable than existing team builders and people were also complaining about it coincidentally. However, it wasn't the complaints that made me change. It was the fact that the team builder could be better that made me change. And then after I changed it, I see a week later, a popular site copied my style and layout for their team builder as well. This felt like an incredibly strange timing because they made absolutely zero changes to their team builder during the entire 8 sets that TFT's been out until I started making mine. Why do you think they were so complacent? Well, they barely had any competition. Since their viewership has been declining since set 1 because other sites have been popping up, they now want to improve too. Maybe it's just a crazy coincidence, but it's something that I noticed. However, I'm gonna keep pushing. Even if people don't want to use my site because of my opinions expressed in this video, the site will actually be such a good product that they'll be forced to use it because it will be that much better than the competition. Also, why do you care what someone's political opinions are for a video game data site? Fun fact, if you do actually want someone to think the way that you think, indoctrinating them isn't the best way to do it. If you want to just virtue signal, sure, do it the forceful way. But if you actually care about winning people over to your cause and changing the way people act, having a slow, subtle approach is much more effective. For example, if you snuck the pronouns into a bio at the start of the stream when you're introducing the players, no one would even bat an eye. Then eventually, once it's more mainstream and people are more used to it, then maybe you could start including it in more and more places. Why am I telling you guys how to do this? Well, anyways, this works for pretty much anything. It's kind of like Inception. People like to think it was their idea, so if you force an idea onto someone, they'll likely reject it. Isn't that neat how I just came up with a solution that pretty much makes everyone happy? It's really easy to criticize something, especially if you don't provide your own solution, but I have one right here. The people that want their pronouns listed, they have it listed. The people that want to watch TFT get to watch TFT, and the people that don't want to see the pronouns might not even notice them at all. How's that for inclusion? That's why if this company actually cared about winning people over to their cause, they are either very dumb in executing their plans, or they actually don't care and just want a virtue signal. Oh, wait a minute, in this split screen view, they don't have their pronouns listed. I forgot exactly what everyone was. And in that case, if I really cared about it, hey, let me go to their Twitch profiles and read their bios, or maybe their other social media. Oh wait, the players didn't list them out like we talked about before. Who knows, maybe I'm banned from all future TFT tournaments because I criticize the excessive use of pronouns, even when no other esport or sport does this, at least that I've seen, and pretty much only bad things can happen when I post a video like this. However, because it's just so overt, pretending to ignore it is worse than addressing it. It's as if the production teams are trying to get a reaction from people. Maybe an angry horde comes after me and tries to cancel or get people to unfollow me. All I will say is this: if you are the type of person to do this, I don't want you following me in the first place because that makes you a malicious person. Someone who would go out of their way to try to affect other people's lives negatively. If that is you, just unfollow right now. There's no room for bigotry on this channel. I also know that no other players will make a video or make a statement like this because, again, they don't want to lose their careers, and I totally understand that because taking care of yourself sometimes is a priority over other issues. However, since I'm in a position of privilege, I can take a risk and criticize mistakes when I see them, even if it may be seen as politically incorrect. And I will always live my life how I want to as long as it doesn't harm or inconvenience others. And I will let you live your life how you want to as well. Again, as long as you don't harm or inconvenience others. In this case, I'm being inconvenienced because my viewing experience of a game that I like is being destroyed on purpose. And no, showing pronouns on a spin-off video game's competitive circuit broadcast isn't going to save any lives. Why do you guys think that the player point of views have so much more viewership than the main streams? Sure, people do like watching their favorite players, but it's also because the viewing experience pretty much sucks on the main broadcast. At the end of the day, I just want to watch TFT, and that should be the priority of this broadcast. But it seems like their priority is something else. I know it's a little hypocritical because this is a TFT channel, and this topic may seem like it's not about TFT, but again, it really is because I want the TFT scene to improve, and I want my viewing experience to be better. I am directly affected by all this nonsense. By the way, I want to take this moment to congratulate Wajan Iverson for winning the tournament by a landslide, and also to Malala, Bosso Skills, and Broccoli for qualifying for the North American Regionals where they can qualify for the World Championship. But if you stuck around this long, whether you agree or disagree, I'm glad that you actually heard and listened to my logic about this. But if you do want more TFT content, go ahead and follow along. Pretty much I'm making all these stupid videos because I'm waiting for the next set to come out, and that's gonna happen hopefully soon. But apart from that, I hope to see you all in the next video.